We're glad that you're with us. All our guests are special. Today's another one, a friend of many years, and a candidate for City Council for the Centerville District here in Virginia Beach. Eric Wray, welcome to the show, Eric.
Thank you, JP. Thank you all for having me and giving us the opportunity to be able to express how we feel and what we're going to do when elected. Thank you.
Well, it's roughly 50 days or something like that, 48 days?
47, 46 days.
47? Who's counting?
Who's counting? No one's counting, man, I tell you.
Yeah. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and why you're running for council?
Well, I'm Eric Wray, and I'm a small business owner. I am the president, CEO, and floor sweeper here at Yvonne Wray Funeral Establishment here in the city of Norfolk, Virginia. I've been open about 5 years. Second generation funeral director, first generation owner. So I didn't get this handed down from my grandfather, my great granddad, or uncles, or my dad. This is something I started from scratch. We'll be in our 5th year, January the 9th. So we're excited about that. I'm a Navy veteran. I grew up in Portsmouth, and I've been a resident of Virginia Beach since 2002. And why I'm running, I'm real passionate about small business. I'm real passionate about, the average citizen being able to have access to government and to be able to have an efficiently run government. I'm not running to be a celebrity. I'm not running to be someone. I'm just running to serve someone. So in my everyday job here at the funeral home, it's what I do. I serve families that come in, and I think that the Centerville district needs a funeral director to come in and serve them, and have that heart, because it's a different heart that you have as a candidate and as a director when you're serving people. So that's why I'm running. And this is why we're on the Zoom call today. So I'm excited about it.
How ironic that there's 3 funeral directors running. I know you get asked that question all the time.
Well, it's 2 on council now. Well, I'm sorry. It will be 2 on council as of January, but it's 1 there now.
Coronavirus is on everybody's mind. I would imagine, and you can cover this too, when you're talking to voters, what are the top issues? But obviously coronavirus has to be right there. It's been tremendously difficult all around the world, but it hit us here in Hampton Roads, especially at the ocean front. So what are your thoughts on that, and has Virginia Beach handled it well?
Well, I think our current mayor has done a decent job as far as handling it. He's shown leadership. What he doesn't tell people, and I tell him this sometimes, our state would have been back to phase 1 had it not been for him. There was a period where they're saying that the numbers were spiking up. The curve wasn't flattened like it used to be. And so our governor wanted to put us back in phase 1, particularly in this Hampton Roads area. And they were saying that the beaches and, people were not social distancing. And so he actually had a relationship with the governor, and he had an issue as far as resolving it to do something with the bars, and I think closing at 10 o'clock, which, I wasn't in favor of it until I actually heard, what was getting ready to happen. So, he exercised really good strength on that, and I would have supported him on that as well. And he's a modest guy, so he's not going to toot his own horn and say, oh, yeah, this is what I did. But, it has to be told that the conversation has to be had that, the mayor actually really stepped up and really saved Virginia Beach.
The shootings that happened a year ago, do you think that he handled that well? The city council handled it well, and subsequent memorials, if you will?
Yeah, and it's the memorials are fine, and I go to a lot of them. But as far as the leadership, as far as what the investigation, the independent counsel that was called in, I think they handled that well. The one thing that did not happen well was my opponent wanted to come out right after that and ban guns in municipal buildings. First of all, when you have a shooting of that magnitude, and it's national, you never use that for any kind of political gain. I just say I thought it was a very reckless bill. I thought it was it was not the time for that. It wasn't the time to be a legislator. It was a time to be a human. And that's something that was one of the only things that I really saw out of the whole ordeal that I just found appalling.
The business with Corona and the dramatic cuts that are going to have to be made. I don't know how you and the rest of the city council, the mayor, because the bottom line, we have to balance the budget, And there's a lot of businesses that have been shut down. Some still are. And that's had to have taken tremendous revenues away from our budget.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? You raise taxes, you raise fees, you cut 20%?
No, I mean, businesses are able to apply for loans. I know that there was a grant that was given to the city, and there are a lot of things in the city that people that are available to the city that people don't know about. And I was told about a grant the other day, and there's a link on the I think it's on the CDC's website for businesses in Virginia Beach that they're able to get some kind of relief. As far as taxes, I would love to see something to where the business tax, there may be some kind of relief for that. I mean, we can, it's little nickel and dime things that, and I don't mean nickel and dime by saying that it's minute, but there's small things that we can do to really have a better effect, bigger picture wise.
So you'd continue those business assistance programs that Virginia Beach has offered until we run out of money or until the economy bounces back?
Well, I'm hoping that the economy bounces back. And so what's not helping this situation, which veers off into a whole nother area, is the civil unrest. Now on top of having to deal with coronavirus and the effects from that, now you're dealing with looting and rioting in some areas of the city. I know the oceanfront has experienced that. And so a lot of individuals are not too secure in that. So I do believe that public safety is my number one campaign focus. So we want to make sure that the city's safe, because at the end of the day, we can give all the tax release we want. If we've got a civil unrest and we've got people that are just looting things, then you're out of business. I mean, that's a double whammy. And so at some point we got to get back on a good footing. Some point we got to get back on solid ground.
I understand. I couldn't agree with that more. Let's talk about regionalism. It seems like as long as I've lived here for 36 years, especially the 7 cities, if not just the 5 in Southampton Roads, everybody talks about working together. There was even floated the idea of merging into one big city. Certainly, do you support the idea of working together?
I support working together. Let's talk about that first. I support working together with our neighbors. I don't support a regional form of government. I don't support that. Virginia Beach is its own entity. Norfolk is theirs. Chesapeake is theirs. Portsmouth is theirs. I would, I think we can formulate relationships and work with them as we have for like the trash, for Cisco. We work together with them on that. But there are other regional affairs that we can work on. Even the public transportation. I mean, I'm not opposed to sitting down at the table talking about some form of public transit. But as far as an entire regionalism body, I'm not with that at all. No, I don't agree.
We had Mike Hilton on. I know you probably know Mike. He's the head of the beach events down there. Kind of took over for Bobby Milotti.
Yeah.
And they do such a great job with those every night, all the wonderful things. They got hurt this year. They're hoping to get back full strength next year. But a lot of people I've heard think that the oceanfront gets too much of the piece of the pie, and Kempsville or Pungo get cut short. Do you think they do? What's your thoughts?
Well, my thought is there's a TIF fund, and the TIF fund, it is designed to be, I guess I don't want to call it a savings account, but it's designed to be their fund. Tax incremental fund is designed to be for the
Speak up a little bit, Eric.
You can't hear me?
I'm hearing
you. I'm sorry. No, the TIF fund. I understand how the TIF fund is, how it works and what it is and what it does. I wouldn't, there are a lot of people that would say, and you get that from a lot of places. I don't want to discount any part of the city. I don't want to discount the oceanfront, but I don't want to discount my friend that owns a place in Kempsville or a friend of mine that owns a place out in Pungo. So, we've got to make sure that, what's equitable as far as businesses are concerned. The oceanfront is a tourist attraction, and we got to preserve that. But there are also businesses throughout the city who might not get the breaks that they get. And so we got to come up with something to make it equitable for everyone. I will say that the oceanfront, I rode down there this summer. Since all the civil unrest has happened, it's been real desolate. And so they're not, it's not all coronavirus either. It's a lot of these, a lot of the civil activism that's kind of hurting our area too. But I do want to make sure that there's something in place that we can work together on council we have to be able to say, okay, yes, they have their TIF fund. However, the business owner in Sandbridge or the business owner in Kempsville or Centerville, they're able to make it too. So they don't feel left out where everything is just for the oceanfront.
You hit the nail on the head there. Again, Eric Wray for City Council here on the Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce. I'm JP Godsey, your host. He wants to be your next city councilman. We're glad you're with us. And the same with Eric. The Economic Development Authority, it seems, I don't know a lot about them, but I know that they give a lot of recommendations to City Council. And I'm thinking, if I don't know about them and I keep my finger on the pulse to follow these things, I'm sure that a lot of people don't. So what's their purpose and how do we make it more transparent?
Well, the Development Authority is there to, I guess, if there's a project, well, let's just start off. Anything under $10 million, over $10 million is supposed to go to referendum. So if the money's, if you have a project, let's say $20 million, and it goes through the Development Authority. So the Development Authority pretty much kind of, I guess I don't want to say they underwrite it. I don't know what a term John Moss would call it, but it's one of those entities where it's pretty much the pass through of it. I think the Development Authority has, I've heard both sides. I've heard they do great work, then I've heard defund it, that D word for whatever reason. I just think that the Development Authority, every deal has to stand on its own merit. And so it shouldn't be a blank check. It should have a lot of checks and balances. I think the community needs to figure out what the Development Authority does and what they do. They're great people on the Development Authority, and there's some that I have no knowledge of. But it's in this time we really need to make sure that everything has transparency towards it. And
that feeds right into. I'm assuming that they have their thumb in making decisions on the public partnership. That feeds right into this. The Virginia Beach has worked hard to make programs available. Well, they set goals for women, small businesses, minorities, those type of things. Our friend Bruce Smith has been very vocal about that, especially down there with the Rudy Loop down at the ocean front. I heard that that's the most expensive piece of property on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. But how would you continue to make sure that it was a level playing field, or to make sure that everybody has a fair shake?
I just had this conversation with someone not long ago, and there's a thing between equity and then there's privilege, special privileges. So I don't believe anyone should have special privileges. I do believe that part. Equitable, I think it needs to be fair across the board. I think that number one, contracts should be given on the merit of the individual presenting the project. I might have a friend named JP Godsey, and JP's the worst contractor in the world, but he's my friend, and so I push it through council. And there are 5 other different proposals that aren't that great, and it doesn't need to be that way. I think it needs to be that every bid is fair across the board. That's number one. The second thing is, a business to survive in Virginia Beach shouldn't have to have the red tape and the enormous amount of bureaucracy that it takes to open a business. Now, ultimately, I want my funeral business in Virginia Beach. One, it's hard to find property. Property is really expensive. And then a lot of the requirements, such as parking, BMPs, and those are universal codes too, but it's still, it's still a hard thing to it's a tall order. And so it's not just the economic part of it, but it's also the actual the red tape. So that part of anyone being able to open a business, I think, needs to be streamlined, and it needs to be well understood. Because, for instance, so my opponent does a thing called the Ignite Series, and the Ignite Series is supposed to be for small business owners to come together and do whatever. But the thing is, I don't need another program so that we can make each other feel good in a conference. I need that small business owner who has a dream, who has a talent, and who might have the capital, but might not even have the wherewithal to open, not the knowledge of everything they have to face in business. So it's up to us as a city to be able to make it easier for them to know which way to navigate, know which way to go, and to even determine if business is even the most correct thing for them, because you let them choose on their own. So we need to be able to make sure that that message is communicated as far as going through the zoning process, going through the planning process, going into Commissioner of Revenue, the Treasurer, all those things. The one thing I wanted to do was to take some extra parts of this or some parts of the city and put them in different regions or districts or whatever, and making like small business resource centers where a person, just say I have an internet business and I don't need planning, so I don't need to go all the way down to the courthouse to do everything I need to do. I can do everything right here in Kempsville where I live. And I think that makes efficiency. I think that people, once they know more information and once they feel like their city is not trying to choke them from being in business, I think you'll start to see a whole lot of it. But the women, and how that correlates into women and minority owned businesses, that's another reason why a lot of women and minorities don't go in business, because they don't understand the process. A lot of us do, but a lot don't. And so if they understand the process and they feel supported by the city, you will be surprised at how many women and minority owned businesses that you will see in your city.
I hear you. As we wrap up here, everybody has things that are passionate. I have issues that are passionate to me, but that's not important. It's what is passionate to you that you would really like to see come together for Virginia Beach under your leadership as the city council representative of Centerville. I'll let you have the last word.
Well, one of the few things I want to see first is I want to see a rec center in Centerville. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, that costs money, yeah, it does. And, I want to make sure that we're smart about that. I want to make sure that every part of the city, they have one. So that's one of my first things that I want to see done on city council. I'm going to work for that. But what I'm passionate about, first of all, is small business all over the city. We have the Atlantic Ocean right here. We have the ocean front. And I'm not just talking about just the actual, that geographic location. This whole area encompasses the ocean front. So I want to see big business. When we get into defunding the police and how this ties together, there are a lot of big companies who don't feel safe in their city, let's say like a Portland or Minneapolis, and where their city councils is just decimating the police department. I want to make sure that we let them know that we are open for them and that we're going to keep them safe, and that Virginia Beach should be the place that you need to relocate to. We've got great talent here. We've got smart people here. So let's bring your corporation here. And that in turn brings jobs. I mean, high paying jobs. You're talking about corporate, corporate. There are a lot of places they could do their corporate offices. Lillian Vernon was here at one point in time, Skills here. So we need to bring more of those. I'm passionate about making sure that our police are funded. And the contrast between myself and my opponent is that I am for the police. I am for them being able to be supported in every way possible. I'm for training, weeding out the bad ones, and I'm not for defunding them. I'm not trying to be an activist to get rid of our police department, because JP, if we don't have a police department, a safe city, the business community suffers, residents suffer, school suffers, the military suffers, because we have all that here. We can't even talk about any of the projects, Economic Development Authority. None of that means anything if we don't have a safe city. So that's the first order of business. And I tell you, that part has brought a lot of people together that were political rivals or adversaries or just, antithetical to one another. But we all agree on one thing: we want our city safe, and that's why you need to replace the current council person and to bring in Eric Wray, so that we can make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen. The Second Amendment, I'm going to always fight to protect for the Second Amendment. We're not playing the whole game of you can't carry a gun in a public place no, we're not doing that. We're a constitutional republic, and we need to remain that way. And it first starts at the local level.
We're hearing that on the street too. I think everybody's in agreement that they want a safe city, and so you got your finger on the pulse there. We're going to have that new police chief on hopefully very soon too. Sure. Your website for people can go to is
Eric Wray, ERICWRAY.org, not com, but .org. You can go there. You can find out about me. You can find out what I stand for. And if you don't agree with some things, I just call it the 80-20 rule. If you can agree with me 80% of the time, or even 70% of the time, then we've got a relationship. But the one thing I will say to people is that I listen And we're not headstrong where we're just going to beat it into you. I'm a representative first. I'm not a politician. I'm not some guy that wants to be an authoritarian dictator. I'm your representative, and you tell me what you need and how our community can become better. And that's my number one priority.
It's always good to talk to you. Thanks so much for
JP.
coming on. It was a lot of fun. That's Eric Wray. He wants to be your councilman. I'm JP Godsey, host of The Wave for the Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce. As always, we thank Max, our tech guy, Ron Villanueva, our executive director, and Gary Byler, who is the chairman of our organization. We want you to be part of our team. We're all for small businesses, and they start for as low as $250 for an annual membership. And part of that is we come out to your place of business and film an infomercial for you that you can use for yourself.
Absolutely.
So come join our team, coastalvachamber.com.